mark my father's passing, help our family mark my father's passing. A lot of you knew him, really well, and a lot of you knew him more on a social level. As I stand here on this August day in 2016, I can't help but be reminded that a year ago, almost to the day, we did a multi-generational family photo shoot because Noah and Nicholas had at that point. Noah and Nicholas at that point had 3 great-grandparents and 4 grandparents. And I wanted to commemorate that moment because I know that, just lifespans, statistically, that's unheard of. So we had our family photographer, Kim, here for that as well. She gets all our events. When a loved one passes, there's a natural tendency to turn them into a saint. And I'm not going to do that because my dad was not, and he specifically told me not to. In fact, one of the last things he said to me was he doesn't want anyone crying over him because he didn't deserve it. And it's probably not the best etiquette to argue with your father on his deathbed, but I didn't have a choice because I said, well, you do deserve it, first of all. So think what you want, but you do deserve it. And, I'm trying to keep it real. He wanted it real. He didn't want anything big. He said he'd rather have nothing. He goes, but I know you girls and you'll have to do something. He said, so just make it a celebration of my life. So that's why we're here today. We're just to celebrate his life. Not the icky, morbid stuff. As many of you know, he died June 27th, and he died of liver cirrhosis, and we found out about it last October. So he went very quickly, unfortunately, and it's so funny because even though we had 8 months to prepare, there's still things to this day, which I'm sure those of you who have experienced loss, you think, oh, I'm just going to go ask him. And you think, oh my God, why didn't I ask him that? But I miss him every day. I always will. That'll never change. But I promised him I wouldn't do anything morbid or sad or depressing. But he told me he didn't want us to cry. And I said, well, I am going to cry. And you're just going to have to get over it. And you're not going to be here. Nothing you can do about it anyway. My dad was not a religious man. And at the end of his life, this was something that became a particular source of concern for me. Because my faith teaches me that you have to ask Jesus into your heart in order to go to the pearly gates. And I begged him. My mom helped me get him a Bible. And as much as he would tolerate without getting mad at me, said, can I talk to you about the Lord? And he was not open to it. And again, this might be wrong, but as he was laying there and he'd fall asleep, I'd secretly pray with him. And I begged the Lord, please, let him in. Maybe there's a loophole. Maybe he just doesn't know. He just doesn't understand. But I need my dad to be there where I'm going, because I know where I'm going. So, for those of you who didn't get to know my dad, beyond the confines of family celebrations, God knows we've had a lot of them, I'll give you a brief overview of his life, and I promise I'll keep it brief. He was born in 1942. His parents were Johnny and Sarah Height, and he had a sister, Annie, who was 3 years old when he was born. He was born in Southgate. Unfortunately, my grandfather, my blood grandfather, Johnny, who I never met, didn't really feel like he should be tied down, but he didn't figure that out until he had a wife and 2 kids. So he was no longer, I'm not even sure how old my dad was when he left. Not that it matters, but my grandmother, Sarah, who was a pretty awesome woman herself, somehow, and we're talking this the 40s and 50s and 60s, raised my aunt and my dad, and she raised them to be very good people. And somehow she did that while working a full-time job and, you know, being a great grandma and a grandma and a, you know, mom and everything else. Fortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your take, the experience of not having a father automatically put my dad into the role of provider. And we've got a work ethic in our blood that must come from our genes, because we're all workaholics, and for better or for worse, we just can't sit still. And I get that from him, and I get a lot of it from her. She'll deny it, but it's true. So, my mom and dad got married in 1960, and he had just joined the Army. But unfortunately, by the time I was 2, and this isn't saying that I was too much maintenance or anything, by the time I was 2, they decided that it wasn't going to work out. So they got divorced. And in the 1960s, you didn't have a lot of divorce. So I went to a private Nazarene school, very religious, so there was even less divorce there. So I was basically the only kid in my class that had divorced parents. And I guess I just didn't know any better, but I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was kind of cool, because I had another dad, Art. Where'd you go? He's in there. Okay. Great chat, Dad. Thanks. See a dad and a spare. I thought it was cool because I got another dad. I had two bedrooms at 2 separate houses.
In the same track.
In the same track. 2 full sets of clothes. 2 full sets of toys. I got to go on 2 separate vacations every year. I never saw the downside of it. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. I'm sure there's probably some damage that was done, but who knows? The one thing that I do know is that I was always loved. I was always loved by my parents. My mother, my stepfather, wherever he is in there.
Hiding. He's hiding. He doesn't like these things.
And my father, and I'm sure that he's up there. I'm convinced he's up there. I'm convinced that the words I had before he died made an impact, and I got him in. So,
If not, you can negotiate with him.
yeah, I can negotiate. Yeah. So many of you have known my dad just since Sharice and Sean got married, or longer, like my best friend who knew him for 20 years, and you knew that he was into cars, and anything that required work, my dad was in it. He was any project, anything. So it explains a lot about me, and she's the same way. So
Good provider.
he was a good provider, and again he got that, I believe, from when he was a little kid. You know, it was do or die. He was the only boy in the family, and you know, he was 14 years old. He was out there doing paper routes and selling ice and ice blocks, which I don't even quite get. I guess like
And delivering
furniture.
and redoing washers and dryers.
Yeah, anything he could do. So he became very proficient at anything electrical, plumbing. When I was a child, things that I cherished most about him. Some of them I didn't like so much because I got him, and you know, it's a double-edged sword. But the one thing that I am grateful for is the fact that I was able to stop working while I was still, as you know, really, I think I'm young anyway. I was in my 40s, late 40s, when I stopped working. And the one thing that I'm grateful for is that it's given me time. It's given me time to spend with my mom, with my dad, my stepdad, my kids, my grandchildren, my friends. To go anywhere, anywhere we want. So I could go on and on about my dad, but I want to keep this brief, and I want to, because he would want it brief, and he's probably already screaming at me now. I've probably gone on way too long, but I didn't cry. So remember, if you're asked, I didn't cry. Now, but I just want to thank you all for being here as we send him on his way.